Episode 25 of the podcast. We're going to talk about inspiring others to try new methods. And then in the second part, we're going to be discussing various types of touching, and I'm going to add a weekly action step. This is the Creating Great Grooming Dogs podcast. I'm Chrissy Newmeyer-Smith. I'm a certified professional groomer, a certified behavior consultant for canines, and a certified professional dog trainer. And this, my friends and colleagues, is the podcast where grooming and training meet. This podcast is for everyone from every corner of the dog world. And I'm trying to make the information fun and informative and adding enough tech talk to help people learn as they go and to also help everybody start thinking a little bit more about the technology or the terminology, rather. But I want you to be thinking, too, that when some of us as professionals desire more tech talk, when we want more terms listed off, I think for trainers especially, it's good to hear things put in layman's terms also, because I find a lot of the general public gets really lost in some of the terminology that we use. So for example, if I say positive reinforcement, most people still kind of are a little bit shaky on what that means. And certainly in my area, at least, I hear people saying negative reinforcement when what they really mean is they yelled at their dog. And they're like, well, it's still negative reinforcement. Like, no, that's not what that is at all, right? So I try to present information for every corner of the dog world. So from owners to people who are new to people who've been, seasoned professionals who might be looking for new ways to explain it to somebody else. But part of that's to get us all on the same page and adding technology and adding terminology as we go. Now, I'm a positive reinforcement trainer. And that doesn't mean I only use positive reinforcement, but that means that I'm not there to scare your dog or hurt your dog. I choose to teach with positive reinforcement. I choose to look at the world from that point of view. Like, what is happening? How can I change it? But because I want this podcast to be all-inclusive, I'm not pushing an agenda. I want people from all parts of the dog world to say, well, I'll listen to that podcast because I'm not trying to tell anybody they're doing it wrong. I want to present information that gets you thinking about why does this behavior happen? How can we change it? And what are long-term goals and results that we're looking for? Because if I have a way to do it that works for me, I want to share that. And if you have a way that works for you, I want you to share that also. But generally, I want people to be thinking in terms of being curious, like thinking about, do I want to try this? Do I want to give it a go? I'm a crossover trainer. So what that means, for those of you who don't know, that means that I started off with some pretty heavy punishment type training. So it was choke collars and prong collars and alpha rolls and mid 80s stuff, right? But I was lucky enough to be working with people who were constantly learning more. Like the people around me, because I was only 14, but the adults around me were like, oh, wait, there's another way to do it? Oh, interesting. Tell me more. And so I was lucky enough to be around professionals who were always looking for new ways to do things. And honestly, as someone who has done things in a very different way, what inspired me to try something new was being able to see somebody be really enthusiastic about it and getting results, right? Not somebody telling me, oh, you can't do it that way. That was really, really mean. That's not going to help people to adapt to new information. The way to adapt to new information is someone saying, hey, let me show you this way. So it may seem like for some positive reinforcement trainers that I'm not positive enough. And it may seem to other people that I'm way too positive. But what I try to present is exactly the things that I have learned over time, the things that I continue to learn, and do it in a way that everyone feels welcome here and everyone feels like I'm providing information and not pushing an agenda, because I think that's really, really important. You turn people off very, very quickly if you're pushing an agenda. And I want all of you to know that too, because if you've been listening to the podcast, you are very likely to have, that kind of a curious mind where you're thinking, I want to try something new. And I know for myself, when I worked as a vet tech, when I worked at grooming shops, when I've worked other places, like to be able to say, but I have a different way of doing it. Would you like to try it my way? To be able to try to get people to think more about, oh, wait, there is a different way of doing it. Or to explain to an owner why the long game is important. Like, well, let's teach them to be comfortable with this because that's the long game. That's what's going to make a big difference in your dog's life for the future and make life easier for you, Mr. Jones, happy owner, right? To make life easier. So one of the ways that I do that when I'm actually like in a conversation with someone who's kind of leery, like, I don't know, man, this positive reinforcement thing, I don't really get it. Why can't we just pin them down, get the nails done? It's important to get it done. Using nails again as an example. That's been my example pretty frequently, hasn't it? All right, let's do a different example. Let's just pin them down, get that ear medication in them. We got to do it twice a day, and it's super important. And let's just get it done. So one of the ways that I approach that, whether it be a customer, whether it be, a colleague, one of the ways I approach that is, all right, well, how long did it take you to force it and get it done? Because I think that if we're used to, as someone who used to force things and get them done, if we're used to forcing it, it probably seems faster to us because it's what we're familiar with. So if we say, all right, how long did it take? Set a timer. That was one of the ways that I actually changed my own mind, is like, all right, is it a waste of time to spend extra time teaching a dog to be comfortable with it? Or is it the same 20 minutes, but that I actually got it done in a way that it's going to be less time next time? Okay. So if you time it, that's actually kind of a good indication of like, all right, I am actually already spending 20 minutes. So if somebody tells me, but if you spend 20 minutes doing it this way, initially, if you're not timing yourself, you're thinking, I'm not going to spend 20 minutes doing ears. Let's just force them. Not realizing that you spent 20 minutes doing it before and maybe with more people. So from a business perspective, if you pile on people to get it done, that's 20 minutes multiplied by 2 or 3 people, right? That's an hour of business time if you have 3 people spending 20 minutes getting ears done, right? And so setting it up and timing it is one of the ways that we can kind of just be objective. Like, all right, well, tell me if you think your way is faster and let's take a look, right? Just straight up measurements, right? We talk about observations with the animals. Let's observe ourselves. So a straight up measurement. And what I found when I was transferring myself over, which was kind of in the mid 90s, when I was learning about, well, wait, can I teach them to be good? And that was really when I was grooming on my own at one particular place where we had training and stuff there. And yeah, so I had a lot of, interesting input from trainers. And so I started timing myself. And that's part of what made me break through and go, whoa, if I had spent that 20 minutes, the next one might have been 18 minutes. And the one after that might have been 15 minutes. And the one after that might have been like the normal ear cleaning, right? Versus 20 minutes every frigging time for that dog's lifetime. And sometimes longer. Sometimes it would take longer than that as time goes on. Because when we're in this cycle of wrestling with each other, it's really frustrating for everybody. It's frustrating for the dog. It's frustrating for the groomer or the vet tech or for the veterinarian or for whoever, whether it be the owner, but, it's frustrating for everybody, and it builds into more and more of a fight. And some dogs will fight, right? Some dogs actually like a good fight. I can understand, like it's sort of a sports thing, like, yeah, I'll get hurt doing it, but it was fun. So, some dogs aren't going to care that you're fighting with them. And that's not going to, diminish their behavior. That's not going to lessen their behavior at all. They're like, yeah, bring it. I'll fight with you. So the circle back, the podcast is for everyone from all corners of the dog world. So I want everyone to be really supportive of each other and introducing this information to each other and to ourselves, to you guys, in a way that's like, hey, let's try it this way. Because really, if it's 20 minutes worth of wrestling a dog to force it, or 20 minutes worth of working on them to help them get it right and feel comfortable with it. Remember my 3 C's, comfortable, calm, and cooperative. If we can get comfortable, calm, and cooperative in the same 20 minutes, that's an investment in future. And that's an interesting way to look at it for many people. They're like, oh, wait, we have a way to not only make it more comfortable for the dog, but to make it easier as time goes on. And I'm going to give you a quick example. I groom a dog who I groomed him this morning, who's a super, super little old guy. He's a Yorkie. He's fragile. He's old. He has multiple health problems. And he is comfortable with me grooming him. So even as time goes on, if he had had this long, lingering fear of grooming, at this age, we'd be really, really worried about him getting hurt or working himself up into some sort of a coughing fit or a heart attack, right? We have to really think about the long-term goals. And the long-term goal is comfortable, calm, and cooperative. And that's not being spoiling a dog, and that's not being wishy-washy. That's just a fine goal, like that's a dog who's well behaved and it's achievable. So be thinking about the way that we approach others with, hey, I have some new information, or I do it this way, or, hey, let's discuss what the end goal is. What do we really want to see? Or how long does it take you to do something? And that can be part of what starts a conversation about, do I want to try something new? Which is different than, do I need to stop doing things the way I've been doing them? I'd rather build someone's skill set up than tell them what they were doing was wrong or false or hurtful or scary. Do you know what I mean? That we want to be supportive of each other in this so that we can make some real changes for the dogs. If you're enjoying my podcast, please remember to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes. So I want to talk a little bit about types of touching, because we talked about how grooming is a touch fest, right? But I want you to be thinking about an individual animal. Maybe it's the one that is in front of you, your own pet. Maybe it's, a dog that you get along with great, that doesn't have any issues. But I want you to be thinking about there are different types of touching, and that grooming has a lot more touching than anything else we really do. Seriously, it's just touching with tools. It's having them stand while being touched. So let's talk a little bit about some of these different stages of touching so that we can better kind of look at what we're doing and that we can prepare better. So one of those, I kind of had them set up into like 3s. First of all, actually, I want to say, if the dog you're talking about is not safe to touch, then I want you to really think about like, okay, then this isn't for that dog yet. Right? That's, if you're an owner, you should be working directly with a trainer one-on-one. Like don't get hurt following instructions while I'm talking about types of touching, right? But if you are with a dog who lets you touch them, I want you to start thinking about some of the ways that we can build some touching skills. So I have them in groups of 3. I just find that sometimes that's easier. So there's playful touching, casual touching, and serious touching. Right? So that's one of the categories you can be playing around with, like, oh, okay, what's the mood when I touch this dog? And what does this dog prefer? This particular individual dog. For some animals, playful touching isn't what they like. For others, it's the opposite. They love the playful touching. Like, yeah, come on over and pet me. Woohoo! But don't touch me like you're all serious. But for others, that real serious, like, oh, let me take a look. They're like, okay, But the real casual version of a touch is like, okay, well, let's just maybe just come over and, hi, yeah, you're great. Pet the head, touch a shoulder, right? So when you think about it as playful, casual, or serious, figure out what that dog's preference is. And then work on the others, because they're all important. You should be able to touch a dog playfully. You should be able to touch them when they're very, very serious, like that kind of emergency touch. Now, another one, I want you to think about there's the quick tap, a bit of petting, and sustained touching. And that's another grouping of 3. Like, think about how long are you doing something for? So first we had the mood, playful, casual, or serious. Now we're doing how long? Duration, right? Is it a quick tap, like a little pat on the head? Is it a little bit of petting, like a little bit of side to side, or hold on for a little bit? Or is it a sustained touching, like brushing would be, right? Where we're kind of touching all over, or a massage. That's another type of sustained touching. Drying them off with a towel when they come in. That's kind of sustained touching. So that's the duration. Now we're also going to talk a little bit about the intensity. So there's a light touch, a firm touch, and a tight, like a grip kind of a touch. And those things are different too. And every dog is going to have their preferences. Now we start off with what they're comfortable with, and then we expand their comfort zone. So if a dog likes a firm touch, isn't real comfortable with a light touch, right? We need to work on that light touch. Or isn't really comfortable with being held tight, which is really common. In fact, anytime I ask an owner, because I'm a house call groomer, so if I'm in their house, and anytime I ask an owner to, hey, can you come on up here and just give them some love? Like if I'm asking them for a little bit of help, I don't want them restraining the dog, because what just about every owner does is they clamp their dog into some sort of a forced grip, which that alone freaks dogs out. Never mind what we were doing before. That alone freaks them out. So I know, tech talk freaks them out. But that's really, really scary for most dogs. So when we talk about holding tight, like clenched, like I need to grab, right? We need to work up to that. Some dogs like that. Okay. And some dogs see that as like the playful, wrestly, dogs that really like to wrestle. Sometimes they like that nice grabby touch, And for some of them, a light touch is kind of like some of those grabby, wrestly dogs. A light touch is more annoying than anything else, right? I'm going to give you a human example. Have you ever had somebody shake your hand and they did this like really limp, wimpy handshake that made you just want to like wipe your hand on something? Like, like that light touch is kind of ticklish and weird. So we have to teach dogs to be able to handle a light touch too, because some of the things that we need to do to dogs require a light touch. I'm not going to be firm and tight with eye drops. Like we have something very, very small, something precise that we need to do. And that's not the time for really tightening down. Like they need to learn how to deal with a light touch. So those are some of the types of touching. And if you think about your world through those kind of categories, it can help us to remember that every dog is an individual and that touching is far more complex. Right. So it's not just about like the classic example of, oh, we want him to be good for his feet, so just give him lots of cookies while you touch his feet. But what kind of touching? What kind of touching are you doing? And are you building this expectation that touching my feet is cookie time that's going to become a frustration later when touching feet is not cookie time, when touching feet is get things done time? So couple of ways to look at just touch. I mean, we didn't even get into touching with objects or touching in different positions. That's just the mood, right? The mood was playful, casual, or serious. The duration, how long the touch happens, was quickly or a bit of petting or sustained touching. And then oh gosh, what word did I use for it? Anyway, the light, firm, and tight. Right? The intensity of that touch. Is it light? Is it firm? Is it tight? But just to be thinking about what that dog's preference is and how every dog is so different, and building up their comfort zone with all of those, because all of those are important. We need to be able to do a quick tap. We also need to be able to do a sustained touch, and the dog should be comfortable with a bit of petting, right? All of those are important. So one thing I decided to add to the podcast every week is I'm adding an action step for you guys. So here is your weekly action step, because I want to build some of our skills. And I say ours because as I give you guys an action step, I'm going to be doing it too. So this week, I want your action step to be anytime you have a dog in your hands, I want you to go ahead and at least once check to see if their body is loose with your hand. We talked a little bit about it in a previous podcast about, loose and stiff. We've talked about it a lot, but loose or stiff. Is that dog stiff in your hand or is that dog loose? Because that's how we decide if a dog is comfortable, if a dog is relaxed. It is if we get a little bit of loose motion. So if you're grooming, I would like for you to have a goal of trying to check and see if that dog is loose 3 times. It could be in the bath, it could be on the table, it could be while you're drying, but just check 3 different times. If you're at home with your own dog, check 3 times a day. I mean, it's part of getting a feel for, without using my eyes and without looking at this dog, can I tell if this dog is relaxed or not? So be thinking about that as an action step this week, because next week I'll add another action step, but it'll help us build our experience level on how well we can judge if a dog is relaxed. And also it'll help us build a habit of checking to see if they're relaxed, noticing when they start to stiffen. And some of those signs are very, very subtle. And when we notice the more subtle signs, then dogs don't throw the huge, huge billboard sign at us. So be thinking about that and have a great week and stay curious. If you'd like to talk to me, you can find me through my grooming and training business, happycrittersdogtraining.com, my email, chrissy@happycritters.net, and through the Creating Great Grooming Dogs Facebook page. And we have these awesome devices in our pockets that allow us to do live video with each other. I can help you with the dog on your table. We can set up live lessons, and you may be surprised at how much we can get accomplished together via video. I'm also happy to come to you if you're near my area in southern New Hampshire. If you're ready to go beyond the podcast, and I hope you do, I've made it really easy for you. If you go to creatinggreatgroomingdogs.com and click on your next step, you'll see all of the options. There's the Scholar Lounge community, there's the Modern Grooming Professional Certification, there's Master Canine Stylist and Professional Canine Stylist Diploma testings, there's the Behavior Lab for coaching and private one-on-one sessions with me, and of course the Master Groomer Behavior Specialist program. So go to creatinggreatgroomingdogs.com and click on your next step.